You call this communication? This clunky, static-filled noise you dare to call language? Queller's mandibles clicked in agitation as they scrutinized the holographic feed of a human news broadcast. The creature's iridescent skin shimmered in the dim light of the command chamber, frustration radiating from every fractal pattern on its body. They thrive on chaos, said Vrex, a tall, serpentine being whose luminescent eyes blinked slowly as if in disbelief. Their species is not bound by the harmony of the universal resonances, Queller. Expecting otherwise is your folly. Queller's voice dropped into a guttural hum, vibrating with irritation. Folly? It's folly to believe they could possess anything resembling collective intelligence. Yet they've carved pathways into the stars, claiming systems far beyond their capacity to understand. From a darkened corner of the room, Yathril, a hulking figure encased in segmented armor that shifted with a liquid grace, let out a low growl. Humans do not conquer because they understand. They conquer because they desire. The three aliens stood aboard the Solus Reverie, a flagship orbiting the fringes of what humans call the Andromeda Corridor. Their mission had been straightforward: observe the humans, assess their capabilities, and decide whether peaceful contact was possible. What they had found instead baffled and alarmed them in equal measure. The Terran expansion must be halted, Queller finally said, tapping a set of glowing glyphs on the console in front of them. They've already breached 3 zones marked as no-contact regions. Their probes scrape across sacred sectors like insects crawling where they do not belong. And their kind does not even sense the danger, Vrex added with a slow hiss. It is not just their technology that offends. They carry war in their hearts. Wherever they tread, destruction follows. Yathril leaned forward, placing one massive hand on the shimmering table that displayed a holographic map of human-claimed space. The danger is not theirs alone. If they awaken the ancient ones buried in these sectors, it will not be humanity that suffers alone. A silence settled over the room, thick and uneasy. Every species in the Galactic Coalition knew the old stories, whispers of forgotten entities sealed away in the uncharted depths of the cosmos. The humans, ignorant and reckless, pushed ever closer to awakening horrors they could never hope to contain. We send them a warning, Queller said at last, the light of determination flaring in their multifaceted eyes. One they cannot ignore. Back on Earth, in the sprawling metropolis of New Jakarta, Dr. Elena Moreau sat in her lab, oblivious to the galactic drama unfolding miles above her head. Her focus was fixed on the strange signals her team had intercepted weeks earlier, pulses of light and energy emanating from deep space, encoded in patterns no human had ever encountered before. "Still working late?" asked Ravi, her assistant, as he entered the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. Elena barely looked up. "This isn't late, Ravi. This is history," he chuckled, setting the coffee down beside her. "History doesn't pay overtime. Any progress on decoding the message?" She gestured to the holographic array in front of her, where strands of light twisted into incomprehensible shapes. "It's complicated. Whoever sent this wasn't using binary or any kind of logic we understand. It's almost like they're speaking in multidimensional equations." Ravi's eyebrows rose. "So, aliens, then?" "That's the conclusion no one wants to admit," Elena said. "But yes, probably. And if I'm right, they're trying to tell us something important." Just as she finished speaking, the holograms in front of them flickered violently. Alarms blared, and the lights in the lab dimmed. Elena and Ravi exchanged a startled glance. "What's happening?" Ravi shouted over the noise. Before Elena could respond, the hologram stabilized, revealing a shimmering, alien figure. Its eyes seemed to pierce through the screen, locking onto Elena's own. The voice that followed was low and resonant, vibrating the very air around them. "Humans of Earth," it began. "You tread on dangerous ground." Elena's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't a recording. This was a live transmission. Above Earth, aboard the Solus Reverie, Queller observed the humans' reaction to the message with a grim satisfaction. "Now they know we're watching, but will they listen?" Vrex asked, coiling their long body around a nearby pillar. "Humans are stubborn creatures. They do not heed warnings." Queller's mandibles clicked in irritation. They will heed this one, or they will perish. As the alien transmission spread across Earth's networks, panic gripped humanity. Social media exploded with speculation. Governments scrambled to understand the implications. And in secret bunkers and hidden labs, military leaders prepared for the worst. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens weren't threatening Earth. They were warning it. What did they mean by dangerous ground? Ravi asked, his voice tinged with fear. Elena stared at the alien's last words, still glowing in the air before her. She didn't have an answer, yet, but she intended to find one, no matter the cost. In the weeks that followed, Elena's search for answers led her to a network of rogue scientists, conspiracy theorists, and whistleblowers. Together, they began piecing together a terrifying puzzle. The humans' relentless expansion into space wasn't just reckless. It was awakening something ancient, something angry. The more she dug, the clearer the picture became. The no-contact regions the aliens had mentioned were not random. They corresponded to sectors in space with abnormally high levels of dark energy, regions where ancient gravitational distortions hinted at structures that defied human understanding. The ancients, whispered Dr. Marquez, one of the rogue scientists. They're not myths. The Galactic Coalition sealed them away millennia ago, before even the earliest human civilizations. And now, we're poking at the locks. Elena's mind raced. Why would they seal them away? What are they? Marquez hesitated. Think of the most destructive forces in nature. Black holes, supernovas, gamma-ray bursts. Now imagine entities that wield those forces as tools. The coalition calls them the Nullkind. Ravi's face went pale. You're saying humans are waking these things up? Not just waking them up, Marquez said gravely. We might be inviting them to Earth. Meanwhile, aboard the soulless reverie, Queller's unease grew. The humans are accelerating their incursions, they said, observing a stream of human ships entering forbidden space. Warnings are not enough. Action must be taken. Direct intervention will cause war, Vrex cautioned. Even now, they scramble their fleets. The humans are preparing for battle, not dialogue. Then let them prepare, Yathril rumbled, their voice like distant thunder. If they will not heed our warnings, we will show them the price of arrogance. Queller hesitated. The Council forbids aggressive action. We would risk galactic sanctions. And the Council does nothing while the humans tear at the fabric of reality itself? Yathril countered. Sometimes, laws must be broken to preserve existence. Back on Earth, Elena's team made a breakthrough. Using fragments of the alien message, they decoded coordinates to a massive structure hidden on the far side of the moon. It wasn't human-made. Its design was far too alien, with a geometry that seemed to defy physical laws. What is it? Ravi asked as they examined the scans. A warning beacon, Elena said, awestruck, and it's been transmitting for millions of years. Her heart sank as realization dawned. The humans weren't just ignoring the warnings. They had built colonies and mining operations directly on top of them. The race against time began. Elena and her team struggled to reach global leaders, desperate to convince them of the imminent danger. But humanity's pride and skepticism proved formidable barriers. Military officials dismissed the warnings as alien propaganda, while corporations lobbied to continue exploiting the new frontiers. And all the while, the Nullkind stirred. Aboard the soulless reverie, the tension reached its peak. They've breached the final containment zone, Queller said, their voice hollow. The Nullkind will awaken. Then we must decide, Vrex said solemnly. Do we abandon them, or do we fight alongside them? For the first time in eons, the coalition faced a choice that could redefine their principles. The humans had proven reckless, but they were also relentless, a trait that might be their undoing or their salvation. As the first tendrils of dark energy began to seep into the galaxy, humanity and the coalition stood on the precipice of annihilation. The time for warnings was over. The time for unity, or destruction, had begun. Dr. Elena Moreau's trembling hands hovered over the console in her lab. The transmission from the moon's warning beacon had grown louder, a series of eerie pulses now synchronized with the strange dark energy detected by orbital observatories. Every moment felt like a countdown toward catastrophe. They're responding, she whispered, as if the universe itself could hear her. The Nullkind. They're waking up. Ravi slammed a report down on her desk. Elena, you need to see this. His voice cracked with urgency. The military isn't just ignoring the warning. They're planning a full-scale operation to secure the moon's mining facilities. What? Her disbelief turned into horror. They can't. They think it's a bluff, Ravi interrupted. Some generals think the aliens are using scare tactics to force Earth into submission. They're calling it a power play. Elena's thoughts raced. If humanity doubled down on its arrogance, the Nullkind would not differentiate between ignorance and malice. Earth wasn't just standing on the precipice. It was ready to leap into the abyss. In the Coalition command chambers aboard the Solus Reverie, Queller stood before a council of holographic projections, leaders of allied species, each representing centuries of wisdom and restraint. We must act now, Queller declared, their voice sharp and unwavering. The humans are blind to the peril they've unleashed. Every moment we delay brings us closer to galactic collapse. The Yarthi ambassador, a translucent being resembling a living crystal, hummed a note of hesitation. To defy the Council's decree of non-intervention is to invite chaos. If we are seen as aggressors, other young species may turn against us. And if we do nothing? Yathril growled, the serrated edges of their armor bristling with impatience. The humans have no comprehension of the forces they awaken. They've desecrated our safeguards, broken the ancient seals, and now the Nullkind stir. Our laws mean nothing if reality itself is unmade. The chamber fell silent. Even the most pacifist members of the Coalition could not deny the truth of Yathril's words. The Nullkind were not just a threat to humanity. They were a threat to existence. At last, Vrek spoke, their coiled body radiating an aura of calm amidst the storm. Perhaps there is another way. If humans will not listen to warnings, then let them feel their consequence. A controlled demonstration of the danger they face. Queller's mandibles twitched. A demonstration? Vrex nodded. We target their fleet. Disable, but do not destroy. Let them witness the futility of their defiance. The United Earth Navy's flagship, Resolute Vanguard, led a fleet of warships toward the moon, its mission clear. Secure the mining colonies and prepare for potential alien engagement. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge, his expression one of grim determination. They're testing us, Hale said, addressing his officers. These aliens want to intimidate us into retreating. But we don't back down. As the fleet approached the moon, alarms blared. On every screen, a swarm of shimmering ships appeared, materializing out of thin space. The Coalition's vessels were unlike anything the humans had seen. Organic, radiant, and moving with an elegance that defied physics. Contact, a tactical officer shouted. Unknown vessels are surrounding us. Admiral Hale clenched his jaw. Hold formation. Prepare to engage. Before the order could be given, a surge of energy rippled through the void. One by one, the human ships powered down, their systems fried by an invisible force. The Resolute Vanguard shuddered as its engines failed, leaving it adrift in space. What the hell just happened? Hale barked. The fleet's been neutralized, the officer replied, panic edging their voice. They're not firing on us. They're disabling us. Through the ship's main viewport, the alien flagship loomed closer, its surface pulsating with bioluminescent patterns. And then, a voice, deep, resonant, and impossibly clear, echoed through every channel. Humans, you are children playing with fire. Leave this place, or the fire will consume you. Elena and her team watched the broadcast of the encounter in stunned silence. Across Earth, billions of people witnessed the same message, broadcasted directly into every communication device. For a moment, the entire planet seemed to hold its breath. But even this act of mercy sparked division. Some saw it as a call to retreat, a chance to save humanity from an unimaginable threat. Others, however, viewed it as an act of humiliation, a challenge to humanity's sovereignty. They've given us an ultimatum, Ravi said. We either listen, or we burn. Elena's hands curled into fists. It's not just about us anymore. If we keep pushing, we won't just destroy ourselves. We'll destroy everything. But how do we make the people in charge see that? Ravi asked. They won't listen to scientists. They barely listen to their own advisors. Elena's eyes narrowed. Then we find someone they will listen to. On the soulless reverie, Queller watched the unfolding drama with a growing sense of unease. Despite their display of power, human leaders had yet to issue a retreat. Instead, reports indicated that Earth's militaries were mobilizing even more forces, preparing for a protracted conflict. They still don't understand, Queller muttered. What will it take to make them see? Perhaps it is not their leaders we need to reach, Vrex suggested. The humans are a fractious species. Their strength lies in their diversity, but so does their chaos, Yathril grunted. Are you suggesting we negotiate with their civilians? Their scientists? That would take cycles. No, Queller said, an idea forming in their mind. But we can give their people the truth. Let them see what lies ahead if they continue on this path. Back on Earth, Elena's team received a surprise visitor, a coalition emissary, its shimmering form materializing in their lab. The alien introduced itself as Thrin, a mediator tasked with delivering a final warning to humanity. You understand the stakes better than most of your kind, Thrin said, its voice a harmonious blend of tones. Will you help us? Elena nodded without hesitation. What do you need? A message, Thrin replied. One that your people cannot ignore. Together, we must show them the truth. As the first strands of dark energy began to coil around the moon, the race to save humanity and the galaxy reached its breaking point. As the Nullkind's dark tendrils began encircling the moon, Elena and her team worked tirelessly alongside Thrin, the coalition emissary. Their goal was clear, to broadcast the truth to all of humanity before it was too late. Thrin had access to technology beyond human comprehension, and with its help, Elena's team created a message, a vivid, immersive simulation of what would happen if the Nullkind awakened. It wasn't just words or images. It was an experience, a glimpse into a future where the galaxy unraveled into chaos and destruction. Above the moon, the resolute vanguard drifted powerless among the disabled human fleet. Admiral Hale stared at the screen as the message arrived, bypassing every military firewall. He couldn't shut it off if he tried. What he saw chilled him to his core. Cities consumed in fire, entire planets reduced to ash, and a darkness spreading across the galaxy like a living plague. The simulation wasn't just a warning, it was a prophecy. As the vision ended, a single voice rang out, clear and resolute. Your path leads to annihilation. Change course or all will be lost. For the first time in his career, Admiral Hale felt doubt. His stubborn pride wavered as the enormity of what humanity faced began to sink in. On Earth, the broadcast reached every corner of the globe. Billionaires in their penthouses, workers in factories, children in schools, all experienced the same horrifying vision. The world stood still as the weight of their collective choices pressed down upon them. In the aftermath, protests erupted worldwide. Citizens demanded that their governments pull back from the brink, urging leaders to heed the coalition's warnings. It was a chaotic, desperate moment, but also one of unprecedented unity. For the first time, humanity began to understand that their survival depended on more than just strength. It depended on humility. The coalition's council watched with cautious optimism as humanity began to shift its stance. Yet, the awakening of the Nullkind could not be undone so easily. The seals humanity had tampered with were weakened, and the dark energy continued to build. They are trying, Vrex observed, their luminescent eyes glowing softly. But it may not be enough. Queller's mandibles clicked nervously. The seals are failing. Even if they stop their incursions now, the Nullkind will awaken. Then we must help them, Yathril rumbled. This is no longer their burden alone. If the Nullkind rise, they will consume us all. Queller hesitated. The council forbids. The council is not here, Yathril interrupted. And neither is the luxury of time. We fight or we die. Elena and her team coordinated with the coalition, now fully aligned in their mission. Using both human ingenuity and alien technology, they devised a desperate plan to create a stabilizing pulse that could reseal the damaged containment zones. The Coalition's advanced ships would act as conduits, while humanity's machines provided the raw power needed for the effort. But there was a catch. The pulse would need to be delivered from within the epicenter of the dark energy, a task that required piloting a vessel directly into the heart of the storm. "I'll do it," Elena volunteered without hesitation. "No way," Ravi protested. "You're the brains behind this plan. You can't risk yourself." Elena shook her head. "This isn't about who's smartest, Ravi. It's about who's willing. If I don't do this, none of it matters." Thren stepped forward, its shimmering form exuding an air of calm resolve. "You will not go alone. My people will guide you. Together, we may succeed." As the Coalition and human fleets worked together to prepare the pulse, the Nullkind began to stir in earnest. The dark energy coalesced into monstrous forms, their shapes shifting and writhing as if reality itself struggled to contain them. Each moment felt like a battle against inevitability. Elena and Thren boarded a specially designed ship, its hull reinforced with alien alloys and human engineering. The cockpit was cramped, but it hummed with purpose, a vessel built to carry hope into the void. "You ready for this?" Ravi's voice crackled over the comms. "No," Elena admitted, her voice steady despite her fear. "But we're doing it anyway." The ship launched into the heart of the storm, dodging tendrils of dark energy that lashed out like living whips. As they approached the epicenter, the Nullkind's presence became overwhelming, a suffocating, all-encompassing force that pressed against their minds. "Elena," Thren said, its voice calm despite the chaos. "Focus on the pulse. We are nearly there." In orbit, the Coalition and human fleets worked together to hold the Nullkind at bay. Yathral's ship led the charge, its powerful weapons slicing through the dark tendrils, buying precious time for the pulse to activate. "We can't hold them much longer," Admiral Hale shouted, his fleet barely holding formation. "Just a little more," Queller replied. "Trust in them." At the storm's core, Elena and Thren reached the critical point. The ship's systems flared as they prepared to release the pulse. The Nullkind's forms loomed closer, their unholy shapes radiating a malice that defied comprehension. "Elena," Thren said, its voice soft but firm. "Now." With trembling hands, Elena activated the pulse. A blinding wave of light erupted from the ship, expanding outward in a cascade of shimmering energy. The Nullkind shrieked, their forms dissolving as the containment seals began to reforge. The ship shook violently, its systems failing under the strain. Elena's vision blurred as the energy overwhelmed her senses. In orbit, the fleets watched as the dark energy began to dissipate. The Coalition and human forces erupted into cheers, their unlikely alliance achieving the impossible. But as the storm cleared, no trace of Elena's ship remained. Weeks later, humanity and the Coalition began rebuilding. The alliance forged in the fires of crisis became the foundation for a new era of cooperation. The scars of the Nullkind's awakening served as a solemn reminder of the cost of hubris. Elena's sacrifice was not forgotten. Her name became a symbol of unity and bravery, a testament to what could be achieved when species set aside their differences for the greater good. On a quiet night, Ravi stood beneath the stars, holding a small, glowing shard, a fragment of alien technology left behind by Thren. He looked up, hoping that somewhere, somehow, Elena's spirit was at peace. And far beyond the edges of human space, the Coalition's observers stood watch, vowing that the mistakes of the past would never be repeated. For the galaxy had been given a second chance, and this time, it would not be squandered.